The last thing my daughter said before closing the door still echoes in my mind. "Dad, Liam doesn't need you anymore. He's growing up, and it's time we handled our lives without you." Then the door closed right in front of me. I stood on her porch holding the small toy truck I had bought for my grandson's birthday, wondering how I had become someone who was no longer welcome in the family I loved more than my own life. If heartfelt family stories and meaningful life lessons speak to you, I'd be grateful if you subscribe to Behind Dad. And before we continue, I'd like to mention that the pictures you see during this story are creative visual dramatizations meant to bring these memories to life. They are not actual photographs from my personal experiences. I didn't knock again. I didn't argue. I simply placed the wrapped gift beside the front door, turned around, and walked back to my old pickup truck. Every step felt heavier than the one before it. As I drove home, memories kept flooding my mind. I remembered holding Liam in the hospital just hours after he was born. I remembered teaching him how to throw his first baseball and reading bedtime stories whenever my daughter had to work late. Those moments weren't just memories to me. They were pieces of my heart. Losing them felt like losing a part of myself. That evening, I sat alone in my living room staring at the framed family photo on the fireplace. I kept asking myself what I had done wrong. Had I given too much advice? Had I become a burden without realizing it? No matter how hard I searched for answers, I couldn't find one that made sense. So I decided to respect my daughter's wishes and stay away. Sometimes silence is the only gift you can give someone who no longer wants to hear your voice. 3 days passed without a single phone call. Then, just before sunset, someone knocked on my front door. When I opened it, my daughter, Sarah, was standing there with tears running down her face. Her hands were shaking as she whispered, "Dad, I need your help." I looked into her frightened eyes, but for a long moment, I couldn't find a single word to say. I stepped aside and let Sarah come in without saying a word. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. The silence between us carried more pain than any argument ever could. Finally, she took a deep breath and admitted that 3 days earlier, just after I left, Liam had started asking why Grandpa never came back. At first she told him I was busy, but he kept looking out the front window every afternoon, waiting for my old pickup truck to appear. Seeing him do that broke something inside her, but that wasn't the only reason she had come. Sarah confessed that she had recently lost her job without telling anyone. Bills had piled up faster than she expected, and the pressure had pushed her into making terrible decisions. Instead of asking for help, she convinced herself that pushing me away would prove she could handle everything alone. She believed accepting my support would make her look weak, but life had a way of exposing the truth. That morning, she received a final notice from the bank, and the fear she had been hiding finally caught up with her. As she spoke, I could hear the regret in every word. I wasn't listening to an angry daughter anymore. I was listening to a frightened parent who felt like her world was falling apart. I walked into the kitchen and quietly made 2 cups of coffee, just like I used to whenever she had a bad day as a teenager. She looked down at the table and whispered, "Dad, I don't deserve your kindness after what I said." Hearing those words hurt, but they also reminded me that my daughter hadn't come looking for money. She had come because she finally realized she couldn't carry everything by herself. Before I could answer, the front door opened. Liam rushed inside after getting home from school. The moment he saw me, he dropped his backpack, ran across the room, and wrapped his little arms around my waist. Then he looked up at me with tears in his eyes and asked one simple question that stopped my heart. "Grandpa, why did you leave me?" I knelt down and hugged Liam as tightly as I could. My eyes filled with tears because no child should ever have to wonder why someone they loved disappeared. I gently brushed the hair away from his forehead and told him, "Buddy, I never wanted to leave you. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes they don't understand until someone gets hurt." He looked at me for a moment, then smiled the same innocent smile he had worn since he was a toddler. In that instant, I realized the strongest bond in my life had never been broken. It had only been interrupted by pain. That evening, after Liam went to bed, Sarah finally told me everything she had been hiding. Her husband, Daniel, had been gone for months working in another state, and the distance had placed enormous pressure on their marriage. She felt overwhelmed, embarrassed about losing her job, and terrified that everyone would see her as a failure. Instead of asking for help, she pushed away the one person who had always stood beside her. Then she quietly admitted something that shattered my heart. The words she spoke on the porch weren't even what she truly believed. She had repeated something Daniel had said during one of their arguments, that Liam was getting older and didn't need his grandfather around anymore. She had let frustration speak louder than love. Before I could respond, Sarah walked into the bedroom and returned carrying a small envelope she had found while cleaning a drawer. It was addressed to both of us in my late wife's handwriting. She had written it years before she passed away, asking that we read it only if our family ever forgot what truly mattered. My hands trembled as I opened it. Her letter spoke about forgiveness, reminding us that pride can quietly destroy families if no one has the courage to take the first step back toward each other. When I reached the last sentence, I looked at Sarah, and she was crying harder than ever. Then my phone rang. The caller ID showed Daniel's name, and what he confessed over that call changed the direction of our family forever. I answered the phone and listened without interrupting. Daniel's voice was heavy with regret. He admitted that he had allowed stress, pride, and fear to turn him into someone he barely recognized. He confessed that he was the one who had planted the idea that Liam no longer needed his grandfather. He thought creating distance would help him become the most important person in his son's life. Instead, he watched his own family fall apart. He apologized for every hurtful word and told me he was driving home because he wanted to fix what he had broken before it was too late. When Daniel arrived later that evening, he walked through the front door with tears in his eyes. He didn't make excuses or blame anyone else. He looked at me and simply said, "I'm sorry." Sometimes those two words don't change anything, but when they come from a truly broken heart, they become the beginning of something new. We sat together for hours, talking honestly about the mistakes we had all made. For the first time in a long while, nobody was trying to win an argument. We were just trying to save our family. Over the next several months, life slowly found its way back to normal. Sarah found a new job she loved. Daniel worked hard to rebuild the trust he had damaged. Every Saturday, Liam and I returned to the park where we had always played baseball together. Watching him laugh again reminded me that children don't remember who was right. They remember who was there. That simple truth became the foundation of our family's healing. Looking back now, I understand that the hardest moments in life often reveal the people we truly are. Being turned away from my daughter's house broke my heart, but refusing to answer pain with more pain gave our family a chance to find each other again. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments because someone reading them may need hope today. Please share this story with someone who believes forgiveness is stronger than pride. Thank you for spending this time with me on Behind Dad. Never let anger close a door that love still has the power to open, because family is the one treasure that becomes more valuable every time we choose to protect it.